One of the biggest challenges we hear a lot with couples when they come in is the husband wants to spend money, the wife wants to spend money, right? They want this freedom to just spend money. They work so hard throughout the week.
I deserve it.
I deserve it, right? We had to set budgets. We had to be super honest and upfront with each other, like what was our spending ability and what was not. If you want to be a champion CEO, okay, you want to grow your contracting business outside of the roles and responsibilities, you need to understand your financials, okay? So Jen was able to then delegate a lot of the heavy lifting of aspects of the financials and the bookkeeping and things of that nature. And then that freed up time, reduced her time significantly. All right, Rockstars, welcome to another No Bullshit podcast for contractors. This is sort of for contractors, but it's really going to be today about couples. Okay. Now, for those listening in, tune out if this doesn't resonate with you. We're talking about couples. We're talking about husband and wife teams. A lot of what we're going to be covering off is, related to even partners or family members and things of that nature. But we're really going to focus in on the husband and wife side of things, because a lot of the champion CEOs that we work with our husband and wife teams. And it's a great combination if you can get it right. And it's a major disaster if you get it wrong. So we're going to share no bullshit about our journey. And it's not going to be everything under the sun. We're going to talk about work-life balance. We're going to be talking about expectations. We're going to be talking about, the importance of having a common vision and how to get this business from an evolutionary perspective through different stages and different challenges. So welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you.
How's it going?
Good. You?
Good. Really cool. Cool to see Jen with the PFC shirt on and on this podcast. I know you're a little bit nervous about this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
First podcast.
Yes.
I had to borrow this shirt from you.
That's awesome. So it's okay to be nervous about, especially this topic, because it's so near and dear to our heart. Okay. Emotionally, okay, professionally, and so many different aspects of it. So let's get into these aspects of the, the three things that we decided to pick. We're going to have pages of it, right?
I could have wrote a book.
There you go.
We should write a book.
That's a great idea. Good. That's actually a great idea. So, work-life balance.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. All right. So let's get into some of the challenges. And again, we're looking at, you guys see us look to the right. Again, this is the No Bullshit podcast. I'm not trying to be like some mega memory read from a script. We're looking at a document here to the right of us just to make sure we're covering off all the points. So work-life balance. Let's talk a little bit about that. What would you say is some of the things that we want to address, some of the things that you experience from a work-life balance perspective?
Yeah, it's for us, it's a huge challenge, especially in the beginning, to be able to, be there to support each other, but also to balance things out, right? So like a really great example for us is at the end of the day, like, Andrew would come home. At the time I had a full-time job, right? I was doing this on the side, right? So I had a full-time job. You'd come home from work and you'd need support. I could see that. You often would come home feeling like a little bit alone, right? Like as a CEO, you can't just go and talk to anybody on your team during the day on what's bothering you, what you're looking for in the company, what's happening. Like, you can't just go and talk to anybody about that, right? So it can be a little bit lonely, right? So I often felt like at the end of the day, I had to listen, like I had to be there for you because that was really important to me to support you. And I could see that you needed it. And I could see that it was helpful, but I could also see that it was wearing me out a little bit, right? Like I didn't have a limit established in terms of when I had kind of heard enough, or if I had a rough day and just really wasn't mentally able to be fully present for you and hear you. And I'd had trouble communicating that in the beginning. It wore me out. And I found that we were talking about work all the time. All the time.
We work 100%.
100%. Yeah.
I'm going to add to that. As a CEO, you get, and it's not just the CEO. I mean, especially as a contractor, you're coming in as the CEO along with 18 other hats.
Exactly.
Right? Like managing the projects, make sure the job's getting done, landing sales. You're coming home, like you can't even get out. I felt like I couldn't even get out as much as what I wanted to.
Yep.
as much as you were there, like absolutely amazingly for me. There was just so much on my mind and so many different variations of it with different hats and challenges and stuff that I'd come in and basically like throw up.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
Dump, a bit of a
dump,
an emotional dump,
an emotional
right?
dump.
At the end of the day. And don't forget too, at that time, right? Like it looks much different now, but at that time, our kids were young.
Oh my God.
Right? I had a full-time job. I was the one who was taking care of all the bills at home, groceries, like
oh my God, there's tons.
Cooking primarily was my thing, right? So like I was carrying a lot at that time as well. So it wasn't just work-life balance, it was life period.
Just
balance. It was just, and we weren't communicating. We weren't telling each other about these, like what was really happening during some of these conversations that like, you know, at times I was pretending to hear you because I felt that I needed to support you and I wanted to support you. But in my mind, I was like, oh my God, I just need 10 minutes to myself. It's been a crazy day. And I shut off. And that's not fair. Like, that's not, I want to be present for you. I want to hear that. I want to, you know, give you 100%. And we learned how to communicate that later on. But it was a real struggle.
But let's be clear though, okay? We're going to get into some of those things that we applied that work, okay? But it was also the other way, right? Like we're hearing Jennifer, you guys are listening to this and you're like, what about Jen? Like, what about Jen? Like, I wanted to hear Jen. I wanted to be there for Jen. And it was really a struggle because when Jen was talking to me, my bandwidth was super, super limited.
Yeah, and I didn't feel like I could talk to you because you would come home and have all this stuff in your head and, you know, all these things you wanted to talk about. And I could see it was stressful for you. And the last thing I wanted to do was add to that with giving, like, with asking for support from you. But of course, I knew you wanted to give me that support. We just didn't have that open conversation to say, hey, I need support, but like, I'm concerned that it's going to be too much for you. How should we approach this so that we both get the support we need and we respect each other's, you know, sort of boundaries and limits, right?
So look, we're going to get into some of these strategies here. And Jen, like, well said. I mean, you just nailed it. I'm sure, you know, if you're listening as a husband or a wife or even as partners, you can relate to this, but definitely, especially in the husband and wife side, because like this is your partner. Like this is your partner that hopefully you're going to be with for life. At least that's how we look at things. And like everybody has their own different definitions of that. I'm not saying you have to be married or anything. I'm just saying for us as a couple, whether you're married or not, as a couple, you know, you have this personal side of support, and you have the business side of support, you have, you know, psychological side of support. It just is, it's a lot. It's fucking a lot. You know, we had young kids, like Jen said, you know, we had...
Our family lived out of the city. We had no family support.
That's right.
No family support.
That's right. Yeah, we had to drive all the time. And by the way, when we moved, not that this is a big part of this, but I'm just saying, like when we moved, the intention was that we would just come here, make a certain amount of money, and, you know, because things were growing and expanding in the city like crazy. It was just, it's just a temporary thing. Now it's like, how many years later?
23.
There you go. 23 years later. Okay. So let's talk about like, what do you do with this? And I want you to give yourself permission. If you're driving the car, if you're in the truck, even if you're a spouse and you're not part of the business, this stuff is going to help you. Okay. And it's not a magic wand, but let's get into some of these things. I think the first thing that we talked about before we got on this podcast, and I think it was really good you brought this up, was you have to identify these signs.
Yeah.
Like, so to know that this is an issue.
Yeah. And for me, I can tell you, I know exactly what those signs were for me.
Yeah. What were they?
So like, I could see that it's these little things, right? Like, oh, I haven't gotten groceries in 4 or 5 days, and we've been out of eggs for like 4 days, and I'm going to Tim Hortons every day. Like I rather eat at home, but I just can't seem to get my shit together to buy eggs. Like it's crazy, right? So these little signs, these little, like, not taking care of myself, not doing the dishes the same day, and these little things that kind of creep up. Even this, like, just feeling of not being connected to myself. Like I'm kind of got this numb feeling that, like, okay, I'm doing all this stuff, I'm going through the motions, but I'm not really here. I'm not really present. And over time, I came to be very aware of when that was happening and going, okay, whoa, we need to regroup.
That's right.
Right? Like we need to regroup.
This is crazy. And, for me, I think on top of what Jen's saying, this emotional tension was just like, it just started getting like worse and worse and worse.
Yeah. And some days I didn't like you very much.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I don't like me very much either. That is true though, right?
I got to be that way, right?
And I think that's one of the things that we've come to realize is to identify the signs, because it definitely went on for way too long.
Yeah, too long.
Okay. We have a lot of Champion CEO clients that come in here, a whole different array from different places, different types, different sizes, but definitely on the couple side. This one of the big ones, okay, is, nobody wants to wake up, not liking the other person, right? Nobody wants to wake up and go, hey man, it's okay that the whole house is a fucking disaster. That I come home, Jesus, grass has been cut, or, and it just goes on. Oh man, we forgot to take out the garbage. Oh shoot, now there's maggots all over the fucking garbage. And it's just like, then it builds and builds and builds. And then little things become big things because it's like a barnacle. You're so sensitive to the situation, right? You're not happy. So you become very agitated very quickly. So for me, those are some of the signs. Okay. So not being present, frustrated, feeling more and more disconnected from each other.
Yourself.
And yourself.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the first thing, guys, is identify, if any of these things resonate with you, then you're probably having, you're probably having a work-life balance issue, okay, in some form or fashion. All right. By the way, I'm going to be straight up. We still struggle with some of the stuff today.
Yeah.
We have to constantly reset. But the difference is now we're identifying these things a lot quicker. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. We still have days where we come home and go, man, fucking didn't go grocery shopping.
Yeah.
Hey man, but it gets addressed instead of us battling over it.
Right.
Right. So let's talk about it. So first thing is identify. Next thing is know your limits. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's tell me about this. By the way, as I say, we're going to away from Jen. We're going to get throat punched.
That's right. It might happen. So limits. I mean, in so many ways, I hadn't set limits in terms of what I was willing to contribute to the company, to the relationship, to supporting you, to supporting me. It was that example from earlier, right? Like you would come home. I'm a supportive person, right? And so that fulfills a need for me to be able to be there to support you and to support the business and do stuff for the business. I remember working late into the night, and the kids are down the hall, and I'm like, this sucks, and I hate this, right?
Mm-hmm. Like, why are we doing this?
Why are we doing this, right? Mm-hmm. Don't we have choices? Anyways.
Oh, we'll get to that. But yeah.
So we started to, we talked about that, and just to say, Andrew, can I talk about that now? Can I take a time? It's just to say, Andrew, this is kind of eating me from the inside out. I'm feeling this need to do this, but I also know that it's kind of destroying me. And I want to be there. I can't.
Right.
And so maybe what we can do, and this is kind of, I think, the part where we did something about it, right? Maybe
you initiated it, actually, big time.
Yeah. Maybe what we can do is, if you have, maybe you can just come to me and go, hey, Janice, is now a good time?
That was huge.
And we just did that this morning.
Yeah.
Right? We're getting ready in the bathroom, 7:00, and Andrew's like, I want to talk to you about something, is now a good time. And turns out it was, but there have definitely been times, and we had to come to that understanding where I would say, you know what, I really want to hear what you have to say. Can we do it in an hour? Mm-hmm. Can we do it tomorrow? I've had a really rough day. I don't think I can pay full attention to you, and I want to. Can we do it later?
Right.
Right. So yeah, that's an example of that limit for sure. Yeah.
I think other limits as well is that, and by the way, this has now become a habit. So I want to be clear that this was not something that, and I know you guys know this, but I just want to be clear, it wasn't something that we had habitualized. That means it did naturally come to our mind. So I'll talk to that a little bit deeper in just a second. But some of the other limits, okay, was when Jen would say yes, and Jen would do the same thing with me, right? So the more Jen got involved in business, or even on the personal side, we both got into this habit of like, it's now a good time. And then we would go, okay, well, I'm not sure, what is it that you want to talk about?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So again, guys,
Good news or is it bad?
no, seriously. So these are some tactics you want to write down or mentally apply. Okay. So step number 1, is the identify. Step number 2 is like, as far as know your limits, we would always ask the question, is now a good time? Now, if things were scheduled, okay, just be clear, these are some of the other tactics we did.
Yeah.
We would default time to do certain things. But if it was outside of those things, outside of that defaulted time of discussion, then we take that approach and we'd ask, the other person would say, okay, well, what is it that you want to talk about? Like, just high level. And that gave the person permission to go, okay, I don't know if I'm really, even if I have the time, willing to talk about that. And it would sometimes you can go deeper. Okay, I
can have we did this on Monday.
Yeah.
Monday was a holiday for us.
Yep.
Right. And so we had something we knew we needed to talk about before work started on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
So we said, okay, let's give ourselves till 9:30 in the morning.
Exactly.
Right. So it forced us to be efficient. It forced us to get right to the point. And we knew that, we wouldn't be thinking about it all day, and we got the issue addressed and we moved on. Right. Like, we set that time limit.
Well, we also set a bit of I'm not saying this happens all the time, but we also set a bit of a carrot for each other to recall. Like, hey, let's leave it till 9:30 because let's get the heck out of this house and let's go do something. So we went for a beautiful walk in the forest and stuff like that. And we also gave it a certain amount of time, right? Yeah. Like, okay, like, this is great. But if we didn't do that in the past, it would have been like a battle. It would have been like one person's pushing on the other, something that the other person doesn't want to talk about, or they don't have the time. Or so, guys, this is a huge part of communication. All right, so take these little snippets and apply them. The next one, one of the things was in relation to work-life balances. Jennifer brought a lot of this to the table. I'm gonna be straight up with you. Okay, you guys, a lot of people see me as some guru or something like that. There's so many people that have guided me and helped me, and Jennifer is definitely one of them. So I'm very lucky to have a best friend and partner in so many different ways. But, Jen said, like, we need something for ourselves. I need something for me.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about, like, what do you mean by that?
I think especially for women, okay, like, you're brought up in this society to give. Like, your value is based on how much you can give, right? As a mom, as a wife, as a sister, as a daughter, like, it's all about the giving, right? It's very, very, very ingrained into society. I remember my grandmother giving me a book when I was about 14 or 15 years old about my Oma on how to be a good wife. And it literally had a chapter on what a good wife looks like, even right down to physical characteristics. Like at the time I was like, oh, this is kind of neat. And I look back on it, it's blowing my mind. Interesting. But anyways, all that to say is that, like, I felt like I didn't have that permission to do stuff for myself. Like, it would be selfish, right? And I've had a lot of guilt around that. And I struggled with that for years and years and years. Like, I'm going to say the kids were probably early teenagers before I finally was like, you know what? Like, I'm going to join the gym. I'm going to can I swear on the podcast?
Yes.
Take a fucking pottery class and I'm going to do this stuff, and nobody, I'm going to have to do it by myself if I have to do it by myself. And I did. I ended up taking a pottery class by myself, which was not like me. I'm a person who loves people. Mm-hmm. So that was a big step for me. But
then you started you started organizing, which is like, I'm not saying that I didn't benefit from it. You started organizing, going, hey, I'm going to organize a pottery thing.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody, let's go. Andrew, if you don't want to come, you don't have to come, but I'm going with the girls. We're going to do pottery. Like, and that was like, it was awesome.
Yeah. And it was like, so there's a little bit too of like, Andrew, if you want to come, you can come. And if you don't want to come, it's okay. I'm not going to be angry with you. I'm not going to be upset with you. Mm-hmm. I need to do this for myself. And I love you, and I'll be back at 8:00. And like, because I had this guilt feeling that I needed to be at home. If Andrew was at home, I needed to be at home, right? And the kids and all that stuff, right, too. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. Bit of a process, but
Well, it is a bit of a process. It's also, again, I'm going to be straight up with you. It's way better than what it was. And I'm not going to say, it's completely ever perfectly ideal. So I don't think it's meant to be, because your life changes and different things happen. But like, I still feel a bit of guilt. Okay. Going hunting. Okay. So we got this property. I love the hunting, and it's not even the hunting. I just love going up and being in the forest, and this is just it. I just love that kind of stuff, and having a piece of property, and having a background of farming and stuff like that. Land is something that means something to me. That's just part of my DNA. So I like going up there and going up there with the kids, or even by myself. But I still struggle a lot with guilt. But here's the thing: since we've established these things that we know is important to the other person, Jen will support me just like I'll support her, and saying, like, go for it, do it. I got this covered. You don't need to worry about this. There's nothing happening this weekend. And that a lot of times gets me over that line of guilt to actually go and do. And then I feel great, and I don't feel guilty. Sometimes we got to put some parameters in. Hey, I want to go see my sister. We want to have dinner with them. So just so long as you're back by 6 o'clock. So then I'm like, hey man, perfect. I'll go do this, sleep over, do my thing, come back. And now we got this, everybody's winning.
Yeah.
Right. So it's okay to feel guilty. I guess that's the one thing I had to give myself permission to feel guilty. It's just, how do you deal with it? And now that we're on the same page and we have our own things, which I think is really important, that you have your own thing. If you do everything together,
then you forget who you are. If you're like, who the hell am I? Am I
true? Like,
just lose that connection with yourself and identification of like, who's Jennifer? I forget.
Totally,
right?
Totally.
So yeah.
Okay.
I think we got to go to the next.
Yeah, let's go to the next one. So next one, expectations of each other. Let's just touch on that. I know we spend a lot of time on the work-life balance. Is really, I think that's one of the core parts of this conversation. Next couple, we're going to go through a little bit quicker, just for the sake of time. So expectations of each other. Look, I would come home, and I would, when you were in the business, and you're in the business again, but this is back in this phase of growing the business. I'm coming home. Jen's doing the books, right?
Yeah.
I also still had a job. I would come home and I'd be like, man, where's this? Where's this? Where's this? Where's this? And what happened was, we didn't define. I had these expectations here. Jen had different expectations, and there was a constant battle. I think that Jen, I don't know, I could be wrong, but I think, looking back at my behavior, it must have felt like you never felt like you were good enough.
Yeah.
Or that you weren't able, meanwhile, you're busting your butt to get things done.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it was, right? Like, we're just so busy in the day-to-day, plus kids, plus everything, plus I had a full-time job at the time.
Yeah.
That we're so busy just trying to keep our head above water. And you knew, like, you're the visionary guy. Like, that's your genius. You have that vision. I'm more of the operations side of things, and being a CPA and everything. That makes sense. And you would come home with all these things that you knew you wanted to do. And of course, I wanted to contribute and be there and help and do all that stuff. But I often felt like, well, look I'm doing all this work, but it's still not enough. Like, what the F is going on here? Like, what do you want from me? Right. And we never really, and we didn't have that conversation for a long time. And then we finally sat down and was like, what's your role? What's my role? What do we want to be doing? What do we not want to be doing? What do we have the capacity to do? What are we good at? What are we not good at? Do we defer? Do we need an admin person? Do we need a project manager to come in? Because this is what it looks like for me. This is what I'm feeling, and often feeling very inadequate, to be frank. And that sucks. And so, yeah, we had to really define the expectations for the roles we wanted to play and kind of take the emotion out of it.
Yeah, I'm going to say that, I want to let you know, especially all the champion CEOs that are listening to this, you look at the organizational chart that we've created. You look at the job descriptions, the policy manuals, all these kind of things. You can be thankful for all the pain that we went through. No, I'm not shitting you, because it's those things. And if you're listening and you're not part of the Champion CEO community, it's totally cool. These are things you definitely want to get into place. You want to know the structure of the company. You want to know what are the roles that are required, who is doing what. And yeah, it's fucking a lot, but guess what? If you don't lay these things out, you're not going to know what you need. You're not going to need what you need from people, and you're not even going to know, and this is a perfect example, from a capacity perspective, what people are able to give you, what they're not. Because here's Jennifer, a chartered accountant. She knows this stuff. Okay, she understands this stuff. But we came to realize, like, at that point in her life, she didn't have the time. Mm-hmm. So to think about this, we went, and I remember it was a challenging conversation. I almost felt like I was, and Jen might want to kill me for this, but it's like I felt like at some point we had to make a decision, like, together, that Jen had to fire herself. Like, in essence, go, I can't do this.
Yeah.
If you remember that.
I totally remember.
Right? Like, I remember going upstairs, guys, how many times on the weekend, hey, I'd go upstairs, you'd be doing the invoicing, and you'd be doing all this stuff. And I'm like, come on, babe, let's go. Mikey's playing hockey, or Maddie's playing hockey. You're like, I can't go. Why? You're like, I got to do the books. I'm like, come on, it doesn't take that much time. And then
or I'd get up at like 4 in the morning so that I could do it and go to the hockey game for 7:30 or whatever. Yeah.
So, it's important for you guys to take a step back and really understand the expectations of each other. And that means not just in the business sense as far as the roles and responsibilities, but also on the personal side. Like, for example, I coached my kids' sports in some form or fashion, all the sports, because I like that. Okay. But that was a responsibility. Before I would sign up to stuff like that, we had to go, okay, what are you committing to it?
Yeah.
Well, every Saturday I got to be in the ice at 5 a.m. Oh, yeah. And then I had 3 practices a week. Oh, yeah. Well, who's going to take the kids?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then on your side, it was similar things, but on the flip.
Well, I'll give a really good example of that, which is that, like, I understood the importance of having strong systems, strong financials, being able to understand your financials, being able to have regular conversations about what you're spending, what you're earning, where's your profit, like all that kind of stuff. And in the beginning, this is way back, but in the beginning, because were wearing so many hats and doing so many things, that you saw that conversation as administrative, as a burden. And I was very frustrated because in order for us to grow the business and to be able to do all these things, we needed to understand that and have a good grip on all that stuff. And it's not administrative. It's in fact foundational, especially when it comes to scaling up your business, because you go and scale up your business and you don't understand what's happening on the financial side of things and how the cash is flowing in and out, and you don't have those regular conversations, your business will implode, right? And so we had to set those boundaries too, in terms of roles and expectations of each other, that, like, hey, Andrew, I need an hour of your time every week or whatever it was to have these conversations. And you may not see the value right away, but we had that conversation and we're able to carve out that time, right? And
so true.
And we, in turn, some had to delegate some other things to make time for that. But that's
it's so true. You
got to make some choices.
Well, look, if you want to be a champion CEO, okay, you want to grow your contracting business outside of the roles and responsibilities, you need to understand your financials. Okay, so Jen was able to then delegate a lot of the heavy lifting of aspects of the financials and the bookkeeping and things of that nature. And then that freed up time, it reduced her time significantly. Okay. But at the same token, it allowed us to focus in on the time that we need to review the data versus Jen spending 6 hours on a Saturday entering the data.
Yeah.
Second quick thing, and we got to move on to the next one, is the spend. Okay. One of the biggest challenges we hear a lot with couples when they come in is the husband wants to spend money, the wife wants to spend money, right? They want this freedom to just spend money. They work so hard throughout the week.
I deserve it,
right? We had to set budgets. We had to be super honest and upfront with each other, like what was our spending ability and what was not. I wanted to buy a whole ton of hunting gear, all this stuff. Oh, I want to go buy a new gun. It's $2,000 or whatever. And you're like, no, it's not in the budget, right? It's not like, or on your side, it was buying things, whether it was clothing or different, whatever those things were, things for the house. Andrew, I want to buy this table.
Yeah.
I'd be like, man, that thing looks amazing. You'd be like, well, how much is it? Oh, it's, $1,500. You'd be like, what? Like, okay, we're gonna have to wait next month.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So that communication, it prevents. Yep.
arguments.
Yeah, animosity and those types of,
Yeah,
you know,
that's right.
lack of trust and like,
Yeah.
where are you spending this money? And I don't trust you. Like, guys, you got to nip that. Okay. You're in this together.
Yep.
You have to behave like you're in it together.
Yep.
And knowing the roles of each other, understanding your financials, which, you know, tailors into that, and understanding the personal spend and the business spend. Guys, it's a game changer once we get on the same page. Last one.
Yeah.
Last but not least, having a common vision.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, you talked about this earlier before we got on the podcast that for the longest time, you just felt like you were helping me. It wasn't part of your vision.
Oh yeah. And that was creating a lot of resentment for me. Like I felt like I'm here, I'm just a worker, I'm just doing this stuff. I don't know what the purpose is. I don't feel like I'm part of the company. I don't know. Like, and I just really felt like very low value, but yet I'm putting in a ton of time. And that was another thing that was just like without a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just digging a hole that goes nowhere.
So true. And I didn't even realize that.
To do that.
I didn't realize that. I'm like, of course she knows what the vision is. Of course she knows what the purpose is. So like, what did we do?
I can't read your mind.
Well, this is it, right? Like, unless she can do the Vulcan mind mode.
Yeah.
Okay. So we carved out time for that.
And it wasn't just about me reading your mind. It was about us defining why the hell are we doing
this?
Why personally?
Mm-hmm.
What do we personally want to get out of it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, is it that we want to be able to take trips? Is it that we want to be able to, you know, go spend time with our family or treat everybody to a trip to Disney World or whatever once a year, or we want to be able to, you know, have this great big hunting season or whatever that is. Why are we doing it? Like, and then build the company around that to help us to reach our personal freedom, right? And I wasn't part of that, and I really felt it, and I didn't realize it at the time.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, it took a while to realize where that was coming from, but then we took the time.
Yeah, and look, I want to say, like, that's why all those champion CEOs, you know, they're part of our community, you know, and anybody listening that's not, again, just write this stuff down. That's why when every quarter we do a planning session, one of the biggest important things we always reflect on is our why. Like, why are we doing this? What's our purpose?
Sometimes we reflect on the why daily.
It's true.
It is
because it gets you through some tough times, guys.
It's
right?
very grounding.
It is.
It's very grounding through the troublesome times which come with any business.
Yep.
And it's also very inspiring during those times of doing well and flourishing and seeing that growth, right? So, yeah. And do you want to talk about how we did that?
Well, yeah, let's just like Cole's Notes version.
Cole's Notes version is we both recognized the importance of it, and we carved out a number of hours, and it was over 2 or 3 days where we just went back to basics and what's important to us.
Yep.
You know, what do we want to get out of it? And then what do we want the business? How can we have, you know, very high level, what kind of business would help us to do that, right? And what would that look like for us in our roles? And
there's a structure that we follow.
Yeah.
Right there. And we had a great partner that, you know, gave us insight. He was now our COO, you know, guided us through a process from an outside perspective, which is really important because us just trying to do it by ourselves. You don't get that other person to go, just a second.
Or ask the tough question.
To ask the tough questions, right? What does that mean? What does that look like?
Yeah, what does that look like? We actually envisioned it, right?
Yeah. So Grant did an amazing job helping us guide us through that. So that was awesome. So, okay, let's start wrapping this up. So we talked about work-life balance, expectations, better communication. Again, all this is not just business. As you know, guys know, it's the business and the personal. How do you bring the two together? Common vision. So if there was anything that you would say, we always do this in the podcast. If there's like the last words of wisdom from, you know, the Grand Master, Jennifer.
The Grand Master.
Who hasn't throw punched me yet.
Yeah. It might not, but it might happen. I just say 2 things. I would say number 1 is remember your why.
Okay.
Remember why you're here. Step back, regroup. Mm-hmm. You know, try not to get buried. Ground yourself in that why, the why that you and I have established together, right? Mm-hmm. And that you all could establish together. Mm-hmm. And I think the other thing too is that the relationship comes first.
I love that. Mm-hmm.
Like the business, God forbid, could fail. It's still you and me.
Yeah, that's right.
Waking up, looking at each other every day, right? Like
shake and bake.
Shake and bake. So the relationship comes first. That means keep connected. That means take time to enjoy those little things, especially through the very hard times. It means start with understanding. Understand. I'm going to put my shit aside for a minute. I'm just going to put it over here for a minute. And I'm going to just try to understand, where are you coming from? And understand that before I come in with my dukes up and, on being defensive and all that good stuff. Right. So, so the relationship comes first.
I love it.
Yep.
Okay. Beautiful. So I think, for me, obviously the ditto, I should say, obviously the ditto what Jen's saying. I think my thing in conjunction of that is, and this is the no bullshit part. And work-life balance is a little bit of bullshit. Okay. It's always going to be a struggle, right? From before we had kids, then we had infants, like not just kids, we had infants, and we have teenagers, and then we got them going to college. I think these are all different challenges. Your parents, moving closer, and people passing away, and like all these different chapters in your life requires a bit of a reset of balance. And there's never a perfect balance. So I think that's bullshit. You're never going to have this perfect balance if you're not
always calibrating.
Well, as an entrepreneur, and I'll just say this really quickly. I'm not bashing what I'm about to say, okay? But Jen used to work in the government, okay? 4 o'clock, and there's nothing wrong with it. 4 o'clock, boom, come home, turn it off, right? Type of thing. We're entrepreneurs. That's a different place. It's a different world, okay? You're an owner. You're a CEO of a company.
It's your money.
It's your money. We are the co-CEOs. Jen's CFO, I'm CEO, but we're the owners. We are the owners of the company. So you're going to be challenged with this stuff all the time. So don't run away from it, because it's not going to go away. And even when you apply this stuff, it's going to come back again, but now you're going to be able to address it better.
Got the tools.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And as far as expectations, communication, and vision, like Jen said, this is our thing together. And when you talk about vision, it's not just the vision of your business. I hear all these podcasts. I shouldn't be bashing them, but it's just business. It's just bullshit. It's not business. Your business is it's still you as a person. This common vision is like, what's the vision as a husband, as a wife, as a father, what's our vision of that? And that comes first, by the way, everybody. Let's be clear. So this is just a quick little note, little golden nugget. Your personal vision comes before. That's why in our planning sessions with our champion CEOs, what's the very first goal they set, Jen?
Personal goal.
Personal goal. What? I thought you guys were helping with the business. Yeah, we are. What's the point of the business if it's not supporting your personal goals? Okay. So get on the same page with that. And guys, you can really do this together. My final wrap up is this. I'm going to just be straight up. The most successful champion CEOs that we have, I'd say for the majority, are our teams. And the ones that are husband and wife teams, when they can get this combo, you guys you can be unstoppable. Okay.
Yeah. 2 + 2 becomes 6.
Whether it's a partner or whatever, when you guys can get on the same page and get these things dialed in, you fucking become unstoppable, because you're both so passionately driven about this common vision purpose.
Yeah, that's right.
Great job.
Thanks, babe.
Awesome podcast. Okay, guys, we'll see you in the flip. Hey, if you want any more tips or tricks or insights, you're not already part of it, join the Profitable Contractors Association. If you want to, get some help to I'm not going to call it a counseling session, but if you want to have a strategic session with one of our strategists that, know how to have a conversation, complimentary to work on the roadblocks, the barriers that, as a couple or partners, or even just as a sole business owner, reach out to us. Worst thing you can do is try to do it alone. We experience that, and we'll catch you guys on the flip side. Catch you later. Ciao.
Hey, rock stars. Thank you for watching the No Bullshit Podcast for Contractors. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button. And if you're serious about growing and need help, click on the link below. Myself and my team would love to help and give you the necessary tools so you can take your contracting business to the next level. And remember, dominate, delegate, and deliver.